What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and welcome to episode 9 of my Sunday series, The Knife Guy. If you are new to my channel or you just came out of some odd corner of the internet and you have no idea what you're watching or who I am a knife enthusiast, knife collector, knife user, knife YouTuber. I basically just really enjoy folding knives and all of the topics surrounding them. As this world expands and more people become involved, and the designs of the knives that we have available to us get more complex or just more visually crazy. I find that there are just infinite topics, especially amongst people who have been in this world for a long time. A lot of us share similar experiences and similar opinions. Not always, but sometimes. And so that's what this series is all about. Basically, I spread out a bunch of knives, some mine, some of my viewers that have lent them to me, and I pick them up and talk about them. So today, what I want to talk about, this was actually requested by a viewer, and I thought it was a good topic because I think a lot of us have done this or tried to define it, and oftentimes we define it slightly differently, but we don't really realize it until we get into it, or you hear other people talk about it. And that's, and I hope that I'm getting this topic right, or the way that he wanted. And I cannot remember your name. I'm so sorry, but it was a good idea. He said that he wanted me to discuss what gentleman's carry means, or what office carry means to us who have been involved with the knife world for a long time. And just kind of go over that and whether or not it holds any consistent validity. I think that's a good topic because here's the thing. It's like this is my percentage guess on how people use knives. You have 80% of us really only needing something like this in our day-to-day lives. Then you've got probably about, I literally just cut myself. Well, try to keep my right hand out of the video. You got 20% of us using knives for more hard use tasks, maybe people who need more of a knife like the Cold Steel Tough Light here for some of those, just tasks like outside tasks, construction work. Excuse me, I'm licking my thumb. And then you've got less than 1% of the community who actually do crazy things with their knives that are completely beyond anything reasonable at all. This is going to be a real test to focus all of my attention. I'm not going to show my thumb on camera, but I'm going to keep going with this because this is going to be a unique one. This is really going to test my abilities as a YouTuber. Let me try and keep talking while I walk to my kitchen and get a paper towel so I can wrap it around my thumb. Jeez Louise. Biggest wound I've ever got from that Victorinox Cadet. Anyways, only 1% of us actually using knives for things that are completely outside and unreasonable for knife tasks. And I'm talking about soldiers, first responders, people who may not have a choice given the circumstance. So what I'm getting at is that, a lot of us are forced into a situation where we want to carry a knife, but we might work in an office. We might work in a place where, and as much as it's like, we don't want to care about what other people think. A lot of times, it doesn't happen as much in Kansas, but I know that some of you work in places where, or are from states where if you pull out a knife that looks like this. I mean, the Delica is one of the least intimidating knives out there. But you pull this out in front of some people in certain states, and they're going to think you're a crazy person. They're going to think this is a huge knife. So it is something that the vast majority of us have to consider who like to carry a knife with us all day, every day. And if you're like me, during the day at work, I'm not really limited to what I prefer to carry. But I don't carry massive knives because for me in my work setting, sometimes I wear khakis and sometimes it's just uncomfortable. And I work around a few people who, if I were to whip out something, really big, big in terms of what's on the table, this mini Marauder, this looks like a weapon to a lot of people. So I'm just going to, test my left-handed skills today. I don't carry big knives for that reason. But anyways, really defining your own gentleman's carry slash office carry knife is something that I think the vast majority of us do. And I'm going to do my best to explain kind of what I think versus what I assume most of the knife community defines as that. Now, a perfect example of a knife that will serve almost everybody's needs all the time is this Victorinox Cadet that just sliced my thumb open. This is a small knife. It doesn't take up a lot of room in your pocket. It's not something that's intimidating to a lot of people. It's a slip joint. There's no there's nothing like this going on. There's no big click and some big crazy blade come flying out of there. So this is a knife that, basically if you pull this out to cut open a package and somebody's like, oh my gosh, you carry a pocket, like somebody gets upset about that, that's not, this is just my opinion. That's not your problem. That's their problem. That's just like, why? You're afraid of a Victorinox Cadet? Why? I mean, I can't assume many crimes were ever committed with a Victorinox Cadet. Beyond that, I get it. So that's kind of a universally defined office carry appropriate or gentleman's carry knife. And when I say gentleman's carry knife, you have to assume what I mean is suit and tie situation or slacks situation, some type of formal event where it's beyond inappropriate to carry a massive knife in general. What you're going to be doing with that knife is, cutting some tape, cutting some ribbon, cutting open an envelope or some little teeny tiny thing. Nobody's going to need a log batoned in half at their cocktail party. Basically that's what I'm saying. Knives that I find more appropriate for that, generally something that's not textured, right? I mean, you don't want the texturing kind of getting in the way of going in and out of your pants. So something that's smooth. Now, this is a knife that looks very gentlemanly in a sense. It's very straightforward. It's very clean. It's very sleek. But you have to remember that we're defining that as a knife person. To somebody who's not a knife person, this is simply a big, scary bladed object. So I defined the ProTech Mordax, which now belongs to Jeff, by the way. A lot of you are wondering, what are you doing with the Mordax if Jeff has offered up the Slim Midi for the giveaway? I'm giving the Mordax to Jeff. That's the least I can do for his extreme generosity. Anyways, the Mordax is a gentlemanly folder, and functionally, I think it would serve well in a sport jacket or in slacks. Given that it is a fairly deep carry knife, not a lot of it's going to hang out. I think it would do well. The problem is it's still going to bother a lot of people, and they're going to think, why are you carrying a knife to that, this type of event, right? And it sounds like, the way that I'm saying this, it sounds like I'm defining this and I'm speaking at everybody watching, like this is what it means and you have to accept it. No, you don't. We all define this differently. We all attend different types of formal occasions. We come from different parts of the world where more or less is appropriate or legal. That's another thing you have to consider. Any one of these knives might fit any particular criteria, but legality is still an issue. While this ADV mini cleaver is in fact mini compared to its large counterpart, which is actually right here. It's going to serve as an example of something else here in a moment. It is mini. It is fairly smooth, although textured. Some people might say that it could serve well in the formal scenario or gentleman scenario or office carry scenario. I would say probably not, because it's still gigantic and aggressive. Even the mini one is. But the blade itself might just not, it might be over the legal line. This has got to be at least a 3-inch blade. It might be 3 1/4 inches, which is over the line in a lot of places. So it's just not going to work, And same kind of deal with, not for legality's sake, but while this is small and smooth, it looks more like a working man's tool, So it may not fit that appropriate role. There's a lot of little tiny things. Generally, the way that I look at it is if I worked in an office where people were going to be extremely concerned with what I was carrying and I just needed a small bladed object that I could depend on as a tool for light cutting tasks, then I'm looking at something like this, and at max, maybe something like this. This is the Ontario Knives green knife is literally what it's called. It's a $5 Walmart knife, but man, it's just a good knife for $5. Generally, my formal occasion go-to knife is my Lion Steel TRE Titanium, because I still get that enjoyment of like, I'm carrying something cool in my pocket, but it's small, it's smooth, it runs on bearings, it's got a nice harpoon style or kind of a sparrow ground style M390 blade. It's just nice, and it is a knife that might still intimidate some people, but it's small enough to where that type of damage could certainly be mitigated, at least where I live. Now, if I was attending an event in New York City or California, probably not. I may not get away with carrying anything on me. But this is an interesting thing because it's completely different. One thing that we can almost universally agree on is that knives that are not appropriate for office carry or that could not be considered in any way, shape, or form a gentleman's carry pocket knife are knives like the Mega Butcher. Mega Butcher to me, and I don't know if this is, this is technically a tack butcher, but it's the size of what Andre de Villiers, I believe, defined as his old Mega Butcher. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's actually a bigger one, which I could barely imagine. But that would not be a knife that I would think anybody... Now, you might still choose to. You might choose to give the middle finger to society and carry a big, that, whatever. But, when I think about what's appropriate to carry, I'm not concerned with, letting everybody there know that I don't care what they think and am, for that reason, carrying a gigantic folding knife that might scare them. That doesn't seem like the type of thing that yields any benefit for anybody. So that's not the type of person that I am. I know some of you want to tell me that, which is why I'm going over it in detail. But another knife that makes zero sense is a knife like the Praetorian tie. Obviously, anybody carrying something like this anywhere. It does. Even this knife even would get some looks on a construction site around here in Kansas, where people expect people to carry folding knives. I showed this to my dad, who works outside every day, owns his own construction company. I showed this to him, and he goes, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing with that?" So, that's obviously, I'm pointing out obvious things here, but I'm trying to find some type of consistency where we can all kind of agree how we all look at, what we all collectively can agree on is definitely an office appropriate knife or a formal event gentleman's carry knife. I wouldn't personally have an issue if I knew that nobody was going to be bothered by it. Gosh, the slim midi would do great in khakis or suit. But the problem with it, again, is it's big. I'd love to carry this all the time. I would love to. You guys are going to get the very first review I'm going to do of all of Jeff's knives next week is going to be this guy here. I would love to, but it's just a scary design. It's an aggressive design. It's not scary to me or to you, but to the average person, it's going to be scary. This is one of David's knives that I still have not reviewed yet. This is a friction folder. Really, really nice. I still need to do some research on it, but if it were a lot smaller, I think it would be less scary. And literally half the size. If we're talking about a gentleman's carry knife, that's not a scary knife. At this size, yeah, it would be. The Delica makes sense. I don't think it's going to scare the majority of people. It's very light. It's going to be very friendly in your pants, except for the texturing. It also kind of has a tool look about it. And I don't know about you guys, but anything that looks like a tool has less of a gentlemanly-esque nature about it. Now, if you're working in an office, depending on, your office, I don't think it's that big of a deal. But if we're talking about the Meadowlark, the Delica, or the Tough Light, knives like these look like tools to me. So I don't know. It's in my office, that's a perfectly acceptable folding knife that's not going to bother anybody. Every other person in the state of Kansas is carrying something like this in their pocket. So, that to me, that's what that looks like. But 14 minutes into this discussion with myself and whoever agrees with me, that's basically what this series is, right? It's me talking to myself and uploading it to YouTube and going, who agrees with me? Hey, who agrees with me, right? You don't have to. You can be like, Complex, you're full of crap and you're an idiot, but I watch your channel anyway. That would not bother me at all. I need you guys to disagree with me sometimes if you actually do, because I'm not right all the time. It's just me just saying what I think into the camera. But here's how I'm going to kind of finish this up. You can carry what you want. I advise that you carry what is legal. That way you don't get in trouble. You can carry what you want if you feel like you're going to need it, or if you don't feel like you're going to need it. I carry stuff all the time that I know I'm not going to need that big of a blade. But if you're going to a formal event, or you work in an office where it's kind of frowned upon to carry anything that could be considered a weapon, or that, you're restricted in one way, shape, or form, the knives that I have that best fit into what I'm talking about are these two right here. This is going to be really big for some people, but the Victorinox Cadet is that's the only knife that I can honestly say I think it's going to be universally agreed on that if somebody's bothered by the Cadet or a Cadet style knife, a small, thin, slip joint style multi-tool, it's obviously a tool. It's obviously not a weapon. If somebody's bothered by that, that's not your fault. You don't have to change something. At that point, you can tell that person, I'm sorry, I don't care what you think. This is just a tool, and it's not, you shouldn't be afraid of this, But these are the only two that kind of fit the roles that I'm talking about. This more as gentlemen's and this more as universally accepted office carry / gentleman's carry folding knife. It ticks all those boxes. Easy to carry, lightweight, small footprint, all that stuff. Not super duper scary. Blade length that's still large enough and capable enough to take care of some odd circumstance that might occur in these settings, but probably won't. But small enough that people are, generally not going to be afraid of it. It also doesn't necessarily look like 100% a tool or something that belongs outside. It looks nice. They look nice. It probably would complement what you're wearing. And maybe you guys don't agree with me, but for that reason, I'm also not somebody who likes to carry something bright and colorful because, a lot of times you're wearing khakis, you're wearing gray slacks, you're wearing black slacks, you're wearing, maybe the color's coming from your tie or your shirt, the shirt that you're wearing. In my opinion, I want something monochromatic with not a lot of color on it so that the attention is not to the object. You don't want to draw attention to the object in that circumstance. It should simply be a catalyst for completing some, task that requires cutting. That's what it should be. So it should be something that does not draw attention. Black and tactical doesn't look good. Tanto doesn't look good. Bright and colorful, in my opinion, doesn't look good. Though there is an argument to be made for knives that are exclusively referred to as dress knives, which are custom knives. In that situation, then it's more of an art piece or maybe a conversation topic, and then it might actually fit that role. If you're going to a cocktail party with a whole bunch of other knife guys, and you've got your custom Jason Clark dress, whatever, whoever, maybe in that situation you would want mokutai and mirror polishing and compound grinds all over it, there's an argument to be made for that. But this is kind of what I think, and I feel like a lot of you might agree with me. Some of you might not, and that's perfectly fine. But I found this to be an interesting topic. I'm glad that, and sir, please, make yourself known in the comment section. I'm so sorry. I could not find your comment. I cleared the notifications on my analytics and I could not find it. But make yourself known. This was a great topic, and thank you for providing it to me because it is kind of difficult to repeatedly come up with topics to talk about that we can all relate to as knife guys in our own social settings. But anyways, guys, that's going to be pretty much it for today's episode. If you enjoyed this episode of The Knife Guy, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, then please subscribe to my channel because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching and have a great day.